Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome back to the Bob Sullivan Show here on latenightsportsradio.com. Antoine Staley of Athlon Sports and SouthBeachPost.com. Antoine, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. You know, I had a good week. You know, started working for the Palm Beach Post, the newspaper, and the website. So I'm doing a good job. So I guess I'm making my way up in the world.
Yeah. By the way, you say I don't think I've ever heard you on my show or seen you having a bad day. So
we try to keep it 100, man. We try to have a good time, man. And yeah, you know how I do. Like we've talked for a lot of years, so I think you know me kind of nice down there. I have like a cool personality.
Yeah, you're what they would call in the industry chill.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of calling it. Yeah.
Well, in the NFL today, I guess not your beloved Dolphins, but your Dolphins.
Hold on. That's not. No, hold on. Before we get started, like that's not my beloved Dolphins. That's who I cover. That's not the beloved Dolphins, though. But yeah, I do cover the Dolphins. Yes.
They may become beloved if they keep playing the way they did today. They looked, a little tougher. NFL looked. Did you like what you saw as far as what Dan Campbell did with the, in his 2 weeks of preparation?
The thing about him is in particular is good luck. There's a lot of wind going on right now. What's going on with Campbell is like you talk about Joe Philbin, and I think a lot of people understand what Joe Philbin. You ever heard him talk and things like that? He was a really monotone guy. He was a nice guy. Like I have to give Joe Philbin a lot of props on that. Like a lot of people talk about trying to take shots at him and things like that, but he was a really nice guy. But at the same time, I think the team needed to jolt the energy, and I feel like Dan Campbell kind of gave him that at least for a game. I don't think it's necessarily gonna. I don't know. I know it's not gonna last because at the end of the day, the players have to go out there and execute and play how they play. But at least for this game against Tennessee, a team that the Dolphins, like on paper, you go ahead into the season, they're better than. They went in and did their thing and then blew out the Tennessee Titans. So that's kind of how it was. So I'm not surprised necessarily by the outcome. I knew they would come out there with a whole lot of energy. It's just about, are they going to carry, how is it going to sustain? Is that energy going to sustain like over the course of the rest of the 11 weeks of the season?
What do you find more pathetic from fans? The amount of criticism dished out at quarterbacks, or do you see it? Is it more pathetic to you the amount of criticism quarterbacks get for their play, or the more criticism they get for the money they get paid?
Well, I think it's more or less because a lot of people thought just Joe Philbin thought he was just the whole entire problem with the Dolphins, which I actually think it's a lot of layers into that. I think it's the fact that a lot of people, like, it's the scheme, and I think it's the fact that they didn't necessarily address a lot of the weaknesses they had, and the fact that, bottom line that, the players are not playing the way they're supposed to play. Like, Cameron Wake, I understand he was injured, and he played very well against Tennessee, but he hasn't necessarily played well up until this point, and Ndamukong Suh, he hasn't. You pay him $60 million guaranteed, but he hasn't necessarily lived up to that. And I know he hasn't been terrible, but when you pay somebody that much money, you expect him to be all world. So there's a lot of layers into that. But I think at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily the blame Joe Philbin. I just think that the same.
Did we lose Antoine?
No, he's still there. Antoine's still there, right?
Antoine?
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. But with the what concerns you more if you're a fan of a college team versus would you rather have a guy that just got paid in the NFL, whether it be a running back, a defensive end, defensive lineman, whatever it is? Would you rather have a guy like that or a guy like Jadeveon Clowney in college where he's worried about getting injured because of his draft stock? Which would you rather have? A guy that, what do you think is more risky to a college team or a pro?
So you're essentially asking me whether I'd rather have Jadeveon Clowney like as a pro or as a collegiate athlete. I assume that's what you're asking, right?
Yeah. Or a guy like Ndamukong Suh, who's kind of checked out since he got paid.
I think you want to kind of have a player that's hungry. And here's the thing about Clowney, like I'm not blamed. Like he's been injured, so I don't think it's necessarily his fault. Like he hasn't planned out that he was going to get injured. I just think that it just kind of happened. In his case, it's kind of like freak injuries, but like you got like a Leonard Fournette at LSU right now, who I think is the second coming of like an Adrian Peterson. You want somebody that's going to be hungry and you don't necessarily know their background and things like that, but yeah, you want somebody that's going to try to strive to be the best and try to help out your program. I think college football, and that's kind of why Nick Saban decided to go back. Like, they have a lot of control over the college collegiate game. As the NFL, it's about money and the players and things like that. So there's a lot of layers in that. But I think at the end of the day that I would rather have somebody that's in college that's more hungry than the NFL, because NFL is so many different layers, and you're talking about players that you don't know their motivation and things of that nature.
Also in the NFL today, the Seahawks go to 2-4. They
lost to Carolina today.
Lose to Carolina. They've dropped in every game. They've blown fourth quarter leads. They actually should be 1-5. You could really say that. And
correct.
What is your take on the way Seattle looks right now? And then on the other side, what do you think of how Carolina looks right now? Do you think Carolina can be a contender in the NFC?
Yes, I think so. I think Cameron was an MVP candidate. I think he had a lot of turnovers in the game, but at the end of the day, he propelled that team to win. So that's what it's all about. Nobody remembers the turnovers that a player makes in the game. It remembers like the plays that they make in the course of the game. They end up helping the team, and I think that's what helped with Cam Newton. As far as Seattle, I think I don't want to specifically blame everything on Cam Chancellor, but at the same time, I just feel like him coming back to when he did, it's kind of threw a kink in the whole defense. And yeah, you saw him and Richard Sherman having a little debate during the course of a game, and they have issues. Like I said, and then on top of the Seahawks offensive line is not necessarily playing very well, so that's putting pressure on Russell Wilson as well. And you also have beast mode Marshawn Lynch. He's not necessarily. I thought he carried the team the past few years. He's not necessarily doing it as well. There's a lot of layers with that team, so they're gonna have a lot of trouble just getting into the playoffs. But I will say this: I think they're gonna get better as the year goes on. How well they are, I don't know, but I definitely think they can be better as the season goes on. But they may be one of those teams that get in at 9-7 as a wild card, but it's definitely wide open. But I know the Arizona Cardinals are definitely the best team in the division. They also have to watch out for the St. Louis Rams as well, because they have a lot of talent there, and they have arguably one of the best defensive lines in football.
I like the Rams too, but I hate Jeff Fisher, and I also hate the fact that every time they play well in their division, but every time they have a big game that's a non-division game, they always fold like a deck of cards. It's
well, that's
bad.
true too.
I mean, you can only win 6 games in your division. That's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, that'll get you somewhere, but yeah, I mean, if you can't win against, the Packers, whoever it may be, I thought actually with that Foles-Bradford trade, I thought that was going to be good for both sides. I thought it was a good fit for both sides, and it's kind of been a nightmare for both sides.
Well, I like Nick. I like Nick Foles, like in St. Louis. Like Sam Bradford, like I'm not a big Sam Bradford guy as far as like talent wise. I think he's very good, but can he stay healthy over the course of a entire season? That's like to be determined. So, but I like St. Louis. I think it just has to be. They have to get consistent play out of Nick Foles, and like I say, defensive wise, they're fine. It's just I don't know. Like Seattle is just something. It's not all there. Like for whatever reason, whatever you want to point at, but we'll see. Like it's a long season, and I thought the Carolina Panthers played an excellent game, and I like I said, I think Cam Newton is definitely an MVP candidate right now.
Do you think Pete Carroll being a truther is coming back to bite him?
What do you mean as far as a trooper? Like just being loyal?
A truther, as far as not believing that 9/11 was actually believing that 9/11 was an inside job.
Nah, I won't say all that.
As far as looking at the Giants Eagles coming up on Monday night,
that's gonna be an interesting game.
I'm actually worried. Like, actually thinking on it, okay, the Eagles have played poorly. They blow out the Saints. I'm kind of glad that they finally got a good game out of the way because I kind of hope it doesn't come out against the Giants. But if they're going to pass a lot, the Giants have a bad secondary. They can stop the run. That's fine. But that's because everybody's passing on it. And, Eli, I like, Eli's been playing well. He's had 2 bad interceptions. One against the Bills and one against that almost cost him against the San Francisco 49ers. Do you think this Giants-Eagles game, could determine who takes full control of the division?
Yes. I already know where you're going with it. Yeah. I think the division is wide open. You got 4 teams that I think could necessarily win it. I don't think the Redskins are going to win it, but at the same time, I forgot who I told this specifically to, but I think 9 wins can win the division. I'm not necessarily. Everybody has like major weaknesses in the division. Where you look at the Cowboys are the best team on paper, but of course they have injuries with Tony Romo and Dez Bryant, and the Eagles. I'm not necessarily a fan of, and you got Sam Bradford, who's he's been injury prone, and you got DeMarco Murray, who started out the season slow, and then you have the Giants, who I think have been the most consistent team in the division, but at the same time, they have their own shortcomings as well, like you talked about. And I think they can stop the run, but the pass, they're completely garbage. And the Redskins, I actually think Kirk Cousins has done an admirable job, but they have their weaknesses. So it's definitely a wide open division. So I think tomorrow will definitely determine a lot of different things. I like the Giants to win. I know that's what you're gonna ask me, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that I think the Giants are gonna win on the road. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles pulled it out. But I think the Giants have been the most consistent team in that division all year long. And you look at their first 2 losses, especially against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Like if it hadn't been playing prevent defense the entire drive against the Cowboys, they have a better record than what they do. So,
do you think that going on to baseball here, we got NLCS. Mets are going to go up 2-0.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now.
Yeah, Mets are going to go up 2-0. The Royals are up 2-0 in the ALCS. Do you see Blue Jays, going into these 2 series, everybody was creaming their pants over the Cubs and the Blue Jays because they could hit home runs.
You talking about the Jose Bautista?
Yeah, everybody was in love with the Cubs. But do you think that if there's a team to come back, Cubs or Blue Jays, who do you think it is and why?
Hey, you talking about the American League?
Either one. I mean, the Blue Jays
Well,
are going to get.
I think it's going to be
Blue Jays-
hard for the Blue Jays to come back. They're going to have to win 4 out of 5 games, and in this setting, I just can't see that necessarily happening. Especially, and what makes Kansas City really good is not necessarily what they do in the first 5 or 6 innings. Their bullpen. Their bullpen is just like lights out. If they get ahead like 3-2 or 3-1 or whatever, like you're not going to win. So if the Blue Jays are going to have to like simply outslug them from Game 3 to Game 5, and they really make this a series. They're going to win all 3 games because I feel like if they even lose one, I think Kansas City is going to win the series. So I still think that's going to happen. As far as the Mets, Cubs, yeah, if the Mets go up 2-0, and I told somebody this last night. I was on radio. Good pitching always beats good hitting. Like, no matter what setting you're in, that's kind of how it is. Like, so you just kind of have to roll. Like, that's how it is. And you know that, like, any intelligent baseball fan understands that.
I don't understand with the. Actually, I do understand, but I don't like. It's funny to me with baseball how we've gone to. I mean, it's still the same way in college and high school, but in major leagues, it's completely changed. Like, it used to be whoever has the best starting pitching staff wins. Whoever has the ace always wins. And I guess last year with San Francisco, but throughout San Francisco's run here, they've had a pretty decent bullpen and a pretty decent starting staff and a pretty decent pretty decent all around. But they haven't been, locked down in any category, in my opinion, other than when Bumgarner's been off.
But their starting staff was better than Kansas City. That's the whole thing. And they had a gamer in Madison Bumgarner, which simply shut down people. Like, and of course, you watch Game 7, so that's what it boiled down to.
When you look at Kansas City, they've kind of put out another blueprint of how to play baseball. It's you don't need 3 starters. You need 4, a really good guy, number 1, and then 3 decent guys, and then just a lights out bullpen. Once you get to that bullpen, and it's pretty much locked down after that. And then you look at the Yankees. Everybody's building their staff from the bullpen. It's just odd to me to build your team from that aspect.
The problem is with Kansas City. Well, I was not trying to interrupt you, but the problem with Kansas City is, they have a great bullpen, but if you can get up on them, like you can beat them, and that's
no, you can't.
That's why
Look
I think
at the
that
Astros. The Astros folded and the Blue Jays folded.
Yeah. That's why I think like a team like the Mets in particular, like if the Astros, the Mets and the Royals would play each other, I think that'd be a bad matchup for them because I feel like the Mets would have the advantage because their starting pitching is better than the Royals. Like, the Royals have a great bullpen, but at the same time, it don't matter if your team is up 2-0 or 3-0 or whatever like that. So, you have a good bullpen, and I think that's great. I think you have to have a really good bullpen, but it doesn't mean squat if you're losing.
With the Cubs, they, losing Game 1 with Lester, losing Game 2 with Arrieta, going back home.
Game 3 is a must-win.
Well, obviously, but what do you think their best? Obviously, what do you think their best option is? Going forward, would you switch anything? Would you get rid of that? Would you? I guess you're out of Russell, but would you move Baez up in the lineup? What would you do if you're the Cubs right now?
Well, Joe Matt is one of the top 5 managers in baseball. So I think what you can do is, you can definitely move up some people in lineup, and you can move. I know he had Chris Bryant and hitting second at one point in time, and things of that nature. But at the same time, and have Rizzo hitting third, but I don't know. At this point, like the lineup is kind of what it is, like the playoff lineup. So you kind of have to kind of twinkle with it. But I wouldn't count out Joe Madden at this point. But at the same time, it's not a whole lot you can do because you're kind of left with the card and the horse that you rode in with, and you have to trust that the Cubs can possibly get it done. Like it just hasn't happened, and yeah, Arrieta is like your big game pitcher, and you know I'm not saying he dropped the ball, but you expect him to win the game, and it hasn't happened right now. So
you played like a major P, as you would say.
Yeah.
On to the okay. Well, a couple things on college football before I let you get out of here. Beloved Florida loses to the Mad Hatter basically on a fake field goal touchdown.
Yeah, you just want to tease me on this, don't you?
Well, I also want to ask you.
I'm trying to refrain not to use profanity right now, but yeah, you just had to bring that up, didn't you?
I have to. With how poorly Nebraska's playing this year, I had to bring it up. But with Florida, do you think that this is going to be a rematch in the SEC title game, LSU Florida?
I think LSU. Well, I think Florida has a easier road than LSU the rest of the way because if Florida beats Georgia, then they're going to pretty much be in the SEC title game. LSU, they still have to play Ole Miss, Alabama. They already beat Mississippi, and they have to play Texas A&M. So they have a much tougher road to get to Atlanta than Florida does. But my thing is, as far as the fake field goal, you ought to know that's coming because Les Miles has been notorious of doing that for years. And I think at some point that it's all the teams in the SEC, even college football, know that he's a riverboat gambler. So you have to have like a spy on somebody. On the field goal kicker in that situation. So that's kind of how it is. So, but it is what LSU is the most. They made more plays. Really, two plays made that particular game. It's that particular play with the fake field goal and the touchdown before halftime, and that's the difference. I think Florida played a really good game. Treon Harris played a solid game. A lot of Florida Gator fans are blaming it on him, but I just think LSU was the better team, and they made the better plays. They made the more plays in that game.
What is your take on Steve Spurrier resigning/retiring this week, and do you think he's coming back somewhere?
No, I don't. I think if you look at what happened in Washington, I don't know if you remember what happened with him and the Redskins. He can't handle you got certain people in life that hate losing, and I'm one of them. I hate losing in anything. So he understood the team was not going to be very good. So he was like, I'm out. I'm not going to win. I'm not going to stay here and have a losing record. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but he understood the team was not very good. So he left. So that's kind of how it was. Like,
I don't like losing, but I like girls losing their self-esteem at times. But here's
the thing. Like, people say that he should have stayed the entire season. Okay, if you stay the entire season, then if you know you're going to quit. My thing is, like, when you already have one foot out the door,
that's
the thing with him, though.
That's the thing with him, though. He's had, one foot out the door his entire time at South Carolina. Like, he's had success there. He's been mailing it in since he got to South Carolina.
I thought he mailed it in before the season was over because, like, to me, I told a friend of mine this. I was like, I think Kentucky's going to be better than South Carolina. He was like, why? I was like, well, one, I think they're getting better recruits at this point. At the same time, I felt like Steve Spurrier is on the way out, and then he thought I was completely insane. I just thought Steve Spurrier, like, he just didn't have it anymore. Like, it's not necessarily like he's not great. It's just that he didn't have the burning desire. And, like, you got to have, like, the stable recruit and everything like that. Like, it's a certain personality. And I just felt like he kind of checked, like you say, not necessarily checked out, but he just didn't have that anymore. Like, the itch to do it anymore. And he showed it, like.
Okay, what do you think of this idea? Steve Spurrier taking over for Lee Corso on game day. Maybe that's going to happen.
Well, I think they've been kind of grooming David Pollack to do that, but I think why not? I think Lee Corso is 80 years old.
Yeah,
so at some point it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen at some point. I just think game day in particular. I think he's a glorified figurehead. The fact that they like his the mascot like and picking up the old end game and figuring out who's gonna win the game. Like what were they at in game day? I think that's why he's there. So. He's not bringing any kind of analysis to the game or anything like that. I think David Pollack is a much better analyst than him at this point. I just think that he's more or less like a entertainment value. And I think Steve Spurrier is still sharp enough where he can analyze the game and things of that nature. It'd be great if they had him. He should do TV or radio somewhere at least for a couple of years, but I don't know if he were willing to do that. I think and I tweeted this out, the day he retired, I was like, he's probably going to be at Augusta so he's going to be on the golf course somewhere just, teeing it off. Because that's how his personality is. He just likes to chill. And, I always thought the NFL game was too much for
him. Last question before I let you go. Who's your Final Four right now? And then who do you think the Final Four? Who's your Final Four right now? And then who do you think the Final Four will be at the end of the year?
Right now, I just give you. I like LSU. I really do because I like Leonard Fournette for the simple reason. LSU and Alabama in a few weeks is going to be epic because Florida. If you look, I don't know if you watched the Florida game. They held him to 180 yards, and that was the quietest 180 yards I've ever seen in my life. So, if Alabama can hold them to that, God bless them. But I like LSU. I think they're the best team in the SEC. I think Ohio State's going to continue to win out. I'm not saying they're one of the best 4 teams, but the fact that the position that they're in, I think they're going to get in. Baylor, they've been blowing people out. I think they're going to get in. And the 4th team, I think TCU is going to lose. So I'm going to go with Clemson. I think Clemson is going to at least get into the playoffs. I know a lot of people are talking about Clemson and them losing the game or whatever, but they have a very soft schedule, and I think I'm not a big fan of Florida State right now. I think, they have Davin Cook and not a lot else on offense. So I think Clemson can definitely win the ACC and get to that 14 playoff. So if I had to pick right now, it'd be Clemson, Ohio State, LSU, and definitely Baylor.
Well, Antoine, before I let you get out of here, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the internets, all that good stuff?
Well, if you enjoy what I had to say,
I do.
Try to Sports Talk Florida, or if you're in the South Florida area, you can definitely find me at the Palm Beach Post. I have, I write a couple of, 2 or 3 articles actually for Palm Beach Post, newspaper-wise, and also web-based a few times a week. So you can find me there as well.
All righty, Antoine. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Good talking to you as always, and we got to do this again soon. Always fun when we catch up.
Well, I look forward to it as well. So I'm sure I'll talk to you as the season goes on. NFL, and we got the NBA coming up in 9 days actually. So I'll write an article about that, about the Miami Heat, even though we're both not Miami Heat fans, but I live down here, so so I'll definitely.
I'm definitely not that.
No, I'm not either. But you got the NBA season coming up, so I am excited about that, and I know you are as a Knicks fan, even though they are the Knicks. I think they're going to get to the playoffs, so yeah, I'm looking forward to the whole season. It should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, it'll be it. This should be.
I think your Knicks are going to get a 5 or 6 seed.
Really? I was thinking they'd be battling for the 8th. I wouldn't be.
No, I think they're going to be better than that.
Even with, I feel like they're either going to start off poorly or finish poorly, and it's going to cost.
Well, they might finish poorly, but I think they're gonna be better than what people think. I think highly of the Knicks. I'm not saying they're gonna win a title or anything, but I think they're gonna be better than what a lot of people think. So I'm really intrigued by how that goes down and how it's really about Carmelo, as you know, so how he plays and if he stays consistently healthy.
Well, Derek Williams has looked really good in preseason.
Yeah,
Jimmy
he's been playing defense too.
Yeah, I mean, they could surprise some people. I'm saying, I think they're going to be similar to the Lakers, where it's going to be their best bet is to be in contention for the 8th seed going into the last week of the season.
Yeah. Did you see the I don't know if you saw the block he made the other night. Like doing preseason, like that was pretty sick. Like I never seen Carmelo like hustle that much since he was in New York. Last time I saw him that like that was in Denver.
and he barely. All right, well, Antoine, I appreciate you coming on. And that'll do it for this edition of the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. I want to thank Neil, Shannon James, and Antoine Staley for being on tonight. And we'll see you next Sunday here on the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com.